Steven Crowder. That's a name that makes me feel things. I wouldn't say I really feel anything positive towards the guy, considering that, well, we all saw the video of him online basically abusing his wife. Meanwhile, he has this video saying that there's a particular kind of womanly behavior that directly leads to divorce. And I don't know, I feel like maybe he's an expert in behavior that leads to divorce.
The only way out of this is discipline and respect.
But Steven, your abuse is sick. Your abuse
Watch it.
is sick.
Watch it. Fucking watch it. Become someone that's you day in and day out, worthy of a wife, no, not a wife. I didn't say the wife. Hillary, come on now.
Yeah, that's definitely a guy who is an expert in divorce. It is amazing to me that Steven Crowder still has a career after, you know, what he's done. But I guess that says more about the people who routinely watch him than it does about him himself. And about YouTube. That too. You know what else says something weird about the people who engage in it? The people who make fan art for my channel. This one is from Axo, and they said, Suris the red chest reindeer had some very shiny tits. And if you ever saw them, you would even say, holy shit, why are your tits glowing? I completely forget what the context was that led to whatever the hell this is. But yeah, no, I am terrified, and you should be as well.
These next people are wrong. This is a trend that I've noticed. And I will tell you, this is probably more important than anything politically going on in the country. If you no longer have the family unit, if you no longer have male and female roles in society with a primary focus being on the rearing of children, you will cease to have a society. That's what, when Founding Fathers talked about this freedom being meant for a moral people, this is the bedrock of that. That's why we have self-governance.
Okay, so I guess any other non-traditional family units that maybe include adoption or simply just do not include children at all for a variety of reasons, those don't count, just the ones that can like bear and rear children. That's always been a weird thing to me, as if the idea of two consenting adults choosing not to have kids is somehow a bad thing. Like, for my part right now, I do not live in a house that I would be comfortable raising a kid in. Just in general, y'all who have watched my channel know that I've had to spend so much time repairing this thing that I just do not want a kid in here. Also, when it comes to money spent, I do not make enough money to raise a child, despite the fact that me and Saki are in a very happy relationship with one another. Would I like to adopt kids? Sure. Am I in a position to do so and give a good life to that child? Absolutely not. Not right now, and certainly not for the current foreseeable future. And yet, there is a contingent of people on the internet who think that child rearing is the most important thing you possibly can do, ignoring every other facet of life you could contribute to. You know, people who contribute to your society with entertainment, or with breakthroughs in the scientific industries, or, you know, who just happen to do things for their fellow human beings that are good. Like, no, none of that matters compared to fucking having kids and raising them.
This is the trend that's been going on, is women publicly crapping on their husbands on social media. Take it from this prequel episode to tomorrow's Why I'm Divorced.
On today's episode of Why I Hate My Husband, this weekend we went to London for a hockey tournament. So much fun, exhausting. The kids had a great time. We get home yesterday. I immediately start unpacking the bags. I sort the laundry. I start the laundry. I then go do groceries. I then come home and I make dinner. I then do bath time and movie time with the kids. Do you want to know what my husband did? Laid in bed. The whole time. Guess who took today off and was also laying in bed this morning when I was doing the morning routine all by myself? My husband.
Okay, all of that is wrong, but let me ask you this. What do you do after your morning routine?
And when you said he took the day off, do you mean from his job?
Yeah. You sound like a treat for a day off to spend with.
Why?
So, on first glance, I look at this clip and I note a few things. There's a lot of missing context here, and yet Steven Crowder is perfectly willing to pass judgment, irrespective of how much context we do or do not have. So, first of all, yes, I assume that the husband has a job as well, but I would also assume, based on how Steven Crowder operates, that his assumption for this person is that this is an unemployed wife who only does the child rearing thing, and then we have the husband here who is employed, because his worldview is one where that is the norm. Now, I do not know enough about the inner workings of this person's life, and I quite frankly don't care enough to find them out. I don't know if this person also works a job. I don't know if this person does anything else other than rear kids, but it seems to be that Steven Crowder assumes that specifically. I will also say, when you make a TikTok series called Why I Hate My Husband, it feels like those people who do those bizarrely specific what-if scenarios on Reddit, and then their spouses find them because they happen to discuss that Reddit board, and then a divorce ends up following afterwards. Like, I will say, I am not saying that the woman is not in the wrong. I feel like if you're in a position where you are titling a series Why I Hate My Husband, you probably should not have a husband.
How is this beneficial in any way outside of social media clout?
And in this regard, I actually have to agree with Steven. I really do. Based on the context provided, I do not know why one would engage in this specifically without, trying to get a bunch of social media clout specifically. Because I was lacking that much context, I actually did bite the bullet and went and found the girl's TikTok, where it looks like she actually does have a pretty decently sized social media presence, and she includes her kids in the actual videos as well. If her kids are included in so many of these videos, I assume the husband knows about pretty much all of this. At least that would be my hope. But let's look at a couple videos to see if maybe that's the case. And perusing through her stuff a little bit, I found another one of these "my husband does things that I hate" videos. But the thing that I found interesting is that there's a bit of context that Steven Crowder was ignoring in this video.
His only responsibility before and after work is to get himself to and from work. My responsibility before and after work is drop off and pick up of our children. So please tell me why he asks me on my way home from work to stop and get him deodorant. Not a chance.
Now, there are points that Steven Crowder makes that are still perfectly valid here. First of all, why would this person who is in a supposedly loving relationship with a, kid, or at least a few kids, is constantly shitting on her husband on her social media? And it's not just in that one video or the one I showed you. No, there are multiple videos where she is just talking about how she is thankful to not have to spend time with her husband. But please note, in the first video that I showed you, did you notice that she also says she works? So that means that what we're dealing with here is not a wife who doesn't work and simply just doesn't give a shit about her husband. We're dealing with a wife who seems to be exhausted because her fair share of the work is being taken care of, and her husband is not doing his fair share of the work. If both of them are working jobs, and both of them have before and after work responsibilities, and his include making it home and going to sleep, but hers include taking care of the kids and other things, then yeah, it seems like the situation is a little more nuanced than just wife hates husband, talks about it on social media, wife is deadbeat, husband works, why would you not want husband to recharge? The way that Steven Crowder frames this completely ignores any other nuance and any other information that could possibly be there, because his worldview is one where he always assumes that the wife is the one not working and the husband is the one providing, when if you actually watch other videos on her channel, they are both providers for the income of the household. She's just also still doing the thing where she bitches about her husband, so I'm still not super okay and on board with that. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of these confusing videos on her channel where the idea of simply communicating with her partner better are, I don't know, an anathema to her.
I called my husband today while I was at work and I explained to him everything I had to do after work, thinking that he would offer to do something. And instead he said, "Kill it, babe, you got this." I stewed on it and I was mad for an hour. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to call him back and ask him to help me and do one of the tasks so I don't have to do it all. Do you want to know what he said? "Yeah, babe, no problem." I love that he's doing a task. I hate that I have to ask him to do the task.
It just confuses me because the idea that your husband was ready and willing to help when you asked him to, that confused you. The idea that clear communication was a bad thing, and instead you wanted to do the mind game things where you plant a bunch of stuff in the ether for him to pick at and maybe come to the correct conclusion when he chose not one but two positive responses. Number one response was to cheer you on and say, "Yeah, you got this, I believe in you." And the number two response was, "Oh, you need me to do something? Absolutely, I'll take care of it." Like, I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm privileged in my relationship where when I need something, I can just ask Saki and she'll do it. And if she needs something, she can just ask me and I'll do it. And there are very rare circumstances where that won't happen. For instance, if one of us wants food delivered and the other goes, "Yeah, but we food prepped." Like, yeah, that may change things a little bit. But generally speaking, when one of us asks the other to do something, we don't really have much of a problem just fucking doing it. I don't think either of us really complain about not being able to read each other's minds. But while I could wax lyrical about how weird it is to hate everything your husband does and still be in a relationship with him and make content about that on social media, for money, but I want to continue on with the Steven Crowder brigade way that they are handling this because, I don't know, the fact that any of these people have managed to stay in a relationship at all, Steven Crowder, barring him, for obvious reasons, is astounding to me because, I mean, just listen real quick.
That part.
Yeah.
No, that's true. Why did she list movie time as a chore? Also, I sorted the laundry and I started the laundry. You mean you pushed a button? I understand.
No, you got to pick it up and put it in, Gerald. It's so hard.
No.
It's a top load washer.
I get it. Laundry's a thing with a big household. You have a lot of it to do. But you basically just said you did two things and then bath time.
Yeah.
You cooked dinner and you did the laundry. Come on. Don't stretch it out.
Also, if your kids are
Okay, let's talk about real quick, because I've seen from her pictures that this is a household with 5 people in it. A 5-person household gets an entire set of laundry, like, ready to get cleaned every 2 days, because that is 10 changes of clothes, which means laundry is an everyday task that is probably going to run you about 20 minutes to an hour between, pressing the button, getting it all set up and ready to go, and then being able to sort it and take care of it afterwards. I can tell you from experience, sorting laundry, not the worst thing in the world. Putting it all up afterwards, that part kind of sucks, especially when you're doing it all the fucking time for a family of greater than 2. And dishes. Dishes is a chore that probably takes most people about 20 minutes to an hour, depending on the severity of the dishes. But again, we're dealing with a family of 5 people here. Those dishes can get kind of exhausting to do, especially when you've got some baked on grease because your kids decided to be, kids. Ultimately, we have a woman who is talking about a myriad of problems, and she's not entirely in the right or entirely in the wrong. Her issue seems to be that she has a myriad of tasks to accomplish during a day over and above regular work. Regular work that Steven Crowder decided not to do any research and figure out if she actually has to do, which took me like 10 seconds. Or, more likely, he knew that she has work that she does as well and deliberately ignored it because it works better for his narrative. Anyway, I'm going to give you a more nuanced view on this because I'm not an idiot like Steven Crowder. I don't have to sell you on anything. I can just give you my opinion, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And maybe that's one of the reasons to subscribe to my channel. I will always be honest and authentic to you when it comes to my opinions. I may be a left-leaning content creator, but I don't need to sell you on a particular worldview. I'm just going to tell you mine. And if you find that valuable, let me know in the comment section below, or more importantly, subscribe and tell a couple friends what I'm doing over here on the channel. If you really like what I'm doing, then maybe support me over on Patreon. That said, the way I see it, the issues at hand are a wife who, if she was engaging in clear communication with her husband, which when she doesn't do that, we've seen that she tries to do the mind reading thing with her husband. When she engages with clear communication with her husband, he seems to be ready and willing to do tasks for her. She gets exhausted because she is not willing to engage in these conversations. In fact, she made a video about how novel it was for her to have one of these conversations and how mad it made her that she felt like she had to have the conversation in the first place. Maybe having a groundworks conversation about splitting tasks more evenly between, the two partners in the household may be a better path forward than making videos on the internet complaining about your husband every fucking day. Because if you're both making your fair share of the money for the household, and your husband is willing to do things for you when you ask, then maybe it's time to have a conversation about that. Because that's definitely a relationship that's worth having. But maybe it should also come with the honest caveat, hey honey, I got this information from people on the internet because I've been complaining about you on the internet for the past however long she's been having her channel doing this. I don't know how well that conversation's going to go, but I also don't know if her husband has actually seen her channel. He doesn't seem to appear in any of the videos that I saw on her channel, but I only skimmed the entire thing. I did not take a look at every single individual video. I mean, I guess she kind of has videos that feature him, kind of, sort of, at least I'm assuming this is him, with the music playing in the background saying that that's my type. It is kind of telling that the videos where she talks about hating her husband are the ones that get the most comments and the most likes, when her videos earlier on her channel are the ones that seem to be more endearing toward her husband, only really talking about bad things her husband did, like in dreams and stuff. But I guess for Steven Crowder's point, it's way easier to just paint the narrative of her being a lazy mom who is just painting her husband in a bad light all the time, when there's more going on here than just that. Just what's going on here is also not fucking good. Like, we can be in a scenario where everybody I'm talking about is bad. Now, there's a bunch of other people who he talks about in this video, and I don't really want to get into each and every one of them because I feel like I'm going to have to do a bunch of research to bring nuance to the conversation each and every time, and that's just kind of exhausting. I can understand why he never does it. And I mean, let's be honest, it's really easy to only take one road when you're listening to shit like this.
I'm going to talk shit about my husband. And if you're not into people getting on the internet and airing their dirty laundry and talking shit about their spouses, keep scrolling. This is not for you.
Oh, where's his page?
Real life friends.
I have
real life friends.
Shocker. Who knew?
Like, that is way easier, I'm not gonna lie. And whereas a nuanced conversation about somebody who doesn't have any friends who they would normally hash things out with using the internet as an unhealthy coping mechanism, there is a conversation to be had there about personal growth, but, we could instead just sit back and laugh at her because it is honestly a stupid thing to do.
If you read the Bible, both Old and New, and I've been spending a lot of time with it, there's very little mention of what we consider love, romance, relationships. Of course, it talks about love and how a marriage is supposed to operate, but this idea of, and if he gets you flowers, or if he makes you feel a certain way, what is constant all the time, both in passive and in active ways, is pointing out that the single biggest indicator of a successful family, marriage, is respect for the head of household.
And of course, this is why the entire video was done shitting on the wives. Now, there's plenty of reasons to shit on them, but when I talk about this, I'd like to get into the nitty-gritty of how to have an equal partnership with somebody who has mutual respect. But when Steven Crowder frames this, this is instead about respecting the man of the house. And of course it would be. He needs you to have respect for him. If you don't, you'll do this.
But Steven, your abuse is sick. Your abuse
Watch it.
is sick.
Watch it. Fucking watch it.
It makes sense that somebody whose view on relationships is purely hierarchical and not based on equal partnerships and equal opportunity would engage in, hierarchical thinking. The type of person who tells his then wife to fucking watch it when she is trying to explain a thing that he is doing that she does not like, that person would spend most of his time not looking at any nuance when it comes to other husbands' wives. After all, he only sees his failed relationships in those conversations. He only sees how he would be or why he would engage in those conversations. For Steven Crowder, the dirty laundry of your relationship is meant to be kept in the bin as long as possible, because were the world to find out about it, they may look at you particularly a little differently and a little less fondly. It was weird to kind of be on board with Steven for so much of the video, because the people he's talking about are genuinely awful and genuinely in the wrong. Basically, even with some nuance, I can't say that they're doing a good thing. Airing your dirty laundry about your fucking spouse instead of talking about stuff with your spouse feels weird. And I'm not saying you can't talk about your relationship publicly. I do it all the damn time, but there is a way to do it that involves mutual respect between both parties, and just shitting on your partner on the internet is not how you do that. But then he had to dial everything back to hierarchy and how actually the way to have a good relationship is for the wife to be subservient to the husband. And let me tell you, I watched that relationship happen when I was growing up. That was the relationship that my stepdad and my mom had. Not my current stepdad, the one that I had growing up. Thank fuck I don't have that stepdad anymore. But that stepdad would do such wonderful things to me, like if I even opened my mouth outside of my room, he would tell me to shut up and not talk, even if I was like beckoning the dog to come over to me, because he was busy reading on the internet stuff that happened in his latest Florida Gators football game, and that was more important to him than the fact that, I don't know, there was a kid who wanted to say words around. Like, I grew up feeling like I had to be silent everywhere I was at, because if I was outside of my room, I wasn't allowed to talk. And if I was at school, I was at a Christian private school, so I wasn't allowed to talk there either. And yet, when I brought issues like this up to my mom at the time, she would say, well, the Bible says that he's the man of the household, so we have to obey him. And again, thank fuck that she is no longer the person she was back then. Thank fuck, because that was an emotionally abusive situation. As I learned more and more about the abuse that he was doing to her behind the scenes, I got more and more disgusted with him as a person. So much so that when my mom went off for a business trip for about a week, I invited friends over and we basically dismantled their entire bedroom, throwing away anything that he had left after the divorce, because she had been sleeping on the couch for an entire couple of months because she did not feel like she could handle going into that bedroom. So we basically took care of that problem. Like, there's only one reason that kids end up engaging in that kind of behavior: when they see a fucking abuse. And the exact kind of thing that enables that type of abusive behavior is the hierarchical thinking that the head of the household is biblically ordained to do whatever the hell they want.
It doesn't start with unconditional love. It starts with unconditional respect for the head of household. You're doing this, you're putting this on social media. You're trashing your husband. You're flagrantly disregarding his position of authority in the house. And I believe that that is the case. If you don't, well, then this is not for you.
That's another thing. Saying, oh, well, this is not for you. No. This is for me. As a person in a relationship, when somebody else is giving relationship advice, I am going to listen to it and I'm going to give my critique. So I think that Steven Crowder, while technically in the correct position, that the wives here are being incredibly disrespectful to their husbands, it's not to their husband's authority that is the problem. Again, Steven Crowder sees this as a situation where the problem is that somebody undermined their authority, not that somebody was basically eroding the trust and respect that should be mutually given in their relationship, that somebody is questioning authority. Because in Steven Crowder's worldview, the thing that sparks power, the thing that sparks respect, is having the correct position on the ladder, more than anything. It has nothing to do with your deeds. It has nothing to do with whether or not you've actually earned that position to be respected in. It's merely that you are there. And can you think of any, like in the comment section below, any abuses at all that can come from that kind of thinking? From that kind of twisted way to view the world, where you just happen to be born in the right body, therefore you're in the right position of the hierarchy to make judgment calls about those that are lower than you? I feel like there's a handful of establishments in the United States specifically that have benefited from that kind of thinking. And we tend to frown on those establishments now, at least after the Civil War.
So women, these women out here, if any of them are watching, try this. Try being the starting point. Try starting off with the frame of mind that improvement and a better relationship starts with you.
I'm cutting that off there because up until this point, you would be willing to agree with him. The idea that change starts with you. If you're having a conflict with somebody, the best way to resolve it is to be the person that tries to change the dynamic of the situation. That is healthy advice on the surface, until you listen to the actual words.
That improvement and a better relationship starts with you respecting the head of household.
I've already waxed lyrical about my problems with this frame of mind. I don't need to go into them again, but it really does mean that no matter what the husband does, you just have to respect their position of authority, even if they fuck up, which feels, I don't know, kind of wrong to me, Stephen.
Just try it. Instead of waiting for unconditional love, instead of waiting for feelings, just try no matter what, even when he screws up, honoring him respectfully, especially in front of the kids. Try it, do it for a month, and tell me things don't improve.
So there are a lot of things to unpack here. Should you show that relationship respect to your husband in front of the kids? Yes, a stable child-rearing position is one where the parents seem to be coming from a unified position of shared authority. However, that's not what Stephen is arguing for. He's arguing that the husband should have the authority and that it always defaults onto the husband. Now, will things improve superficially in those situations? I don't know. Maybe, but is improvement the negative piece of lack of conflict, or is an improvement, actually solving the problems that these individual people have with their husbands, where he doesn't actually do things or share their parts of the labor, which seems to be one of the common complaints in these areas. If that is the case, if the common complaint is the shared responsibilities not being shared, then simply respecting his authority on things doesn't make those things better. It just makes you suck it up more, which doesn't improve your situation. It just makes you pretend that you're tolerant towards it in a fake it till you make it kind of way.
And if this was going both ways, if both people, the term is like, their love tank, if both people had their love tank empty, you wouldn't see 80% of the suicides coming from men. 80%. And do you know why? Because we've placed this value above all other values. That's why you see it on socialists. I need to vent. He'll suffer in silence and then kill himself. And do you know why he may want to take a nap after working, or if he's sick, which makes you angry? Well, 92% of all workplace deaths, Mike Tyson is
innocent.
Workplace deaths are men. 92%.
And here's where he actually manages to make a good point, but in so doing sells you on a very, very shaky epistemology. So, Stephen Crowder up to this point has basically tried to sell you on the idea that men should be the heads of the household, they should be the people in charge of everything, as opposed to this being equal ground for people who were both born on fucking planet Earth as human beings. And then afterwards, he talks about male suicide rates, something that has a myriad of causes, and we do need to be doing better about. And yeah, we do need to make sure that we are not losing men who become despondent because they are lonely and do not know how to approach women, or start being afraid to approach women because the social media landscape is one where they feel like they're going to get shat on and their lives get ruined because they make an off-fucking comment about them. But here's where the propaganda from Stephen Crowder ends up working well in his favor, because he's not only selling you on a worldview, if you are a lonely man, that if you are in a relationship, you should be the one in power, in charge of everything, but he's also worried about your mental health. He's so worried he's talking about male suicide rates, as if that's something that he is very concerned about. And he very well might be. I am uncertain of that. But a thing that we on the left, generally, politically speaking, a thing that we tend to forget is that the manosphere, as it is, the, big bros before hoes section of the internet that talks about testosterone and going to the gym and getting swole and sucking it up and dealing with your problems and getting a few beers with the boys after work. That section of the internet is seeing the section of the internet where women are shitting on their husbands, and they are selling them on this incredibly misogynistic idea of how the world should be, because it's very easy to sell somebody on the idea that that is an improvement over their current situation. If you are in a position where you don't have a relationship and you feel like you're not respected in yours, if you are in a relationship and somebody tells you that actually the problem is you're the alpha male of the household and you need to be respected in all scenarios and the woman's not respecting you, it's super easy to sell somebody on that idea, because that idea is, well, it's easy. It's easy to think you're the best. All of the best ideas you've ever thought of came from you. So why wouldn't you think that you are that pillar that everything needs to hinge on? Everybody is going to look after themselves first in an individualistic society, so selling somebody on a worldview that focuses on that instead of mutual respect, where you have to bring somebody else to the table and get them on board with your ideas, that latter one's a lot harder. It may be harder to sell your girlfriend on the idea that shitting on you on the internet is not great if you're coming at it from a position of mutual power. It's way easier to authoritarianly just put your foot down and say, that's not happening anymore, honey. And that's the ideology that Steven Crowder's selling you. It's an easy ideology. It is an easy path to power. It is an easy path to a negative peace. But I don't think that it's a healthy one, because how many relationships are you really going to find yourself in where all of your ideas are perfect and require no scrutiny? How many situations in life can you find yourself in where there is no need for somebody else's input on your ideas or your thought processes? I would argue that human beings work better together in general, and that goes for relationships as well. You're not supposed to be the authority of your household. You're supposed to be a mutual partnership. When somebody gets in a relationship with you, it should not be because they want to be your underling. It should be because they want to be your equal. They should want a person that walks beside them and not a person that walks in front of them or behind them. And somebody's going to say that I got the song stuck in their head now in the comment section below. And good! Congratulations! It's now stuck in your head just like it got stuck in mine for fucking years. But not to do the armchair analysis thing here, but it seems that Steven Crowder didn't learn a single lesson from his messy marriage. He didn't learn any lesson from his divorce, because he had that authoritarian mindset and tried to use it to shit on his wife years ago. And now he is still trying to sell that mindset instead of a mindset of equal opportunity and equal shared responsibility to young men around the world. And it's working. The Manosphere shit works. I don't know if you've noticed this, but we do tend to lose a lot of people on the left to the Manosphere because, again, it's an easy ideology to fall into, and Steven Crowder is one of the people who sells it in, let's be honest, one of its softest forms. You go from the language that he's using, and then you hear that it's the exact same language that's being said by known human trafficker Andrew Tate.
I know a lot of men who completely love their wives. They love them with all their heart. They die for her. But he's just not respected in his house. He doesn't get to be the man of the house.
Is it on him or is it on her? Like, does he need to go earn it, or is it on her to provide it?
It's a combination of both. I think it's certainly on him to earn it, but also the Matrix programming is counter to him. The Matrix programming is trying to tell him that he shouldn't be allowed to be the man of the house, that he shouldn't be allowed to have any kind of authority in any regard. He shouldn't be allowed to be able to say what happens. The Matrix programming is saying the absolute opposite all the time. And if that's getting into your woman and you don't have that much influence, and that's getting into all your children, you don't have that much influence, now you're coming home to a household where everyone just thinks you're the dude who should just fucking work. You're just a worker droid. You're the slave. You're the robot. And your feelings don't matter and your authority doesn't matter, and get fucked.
And let's be honest, if you're somebody who's working a incredibly taxing job, or really any fucking job right now, or any combination of them, let's be even more realistic, you're going to hear that language, and you're going to hear that it's aimed directly at you. You're going to hear that, oh, I should be an authority in my household. I should have that authority. I should be the person who is making those calls because I am doing the work. I have earned it. Even if somebody like Andrew Tate tells you, oh yeah, no, you should definitely go and earn that, whereas somebody like Steven Crowder is saying that irrespective of whether or not you earn it, you should just have it, there's no real way you're going to know how to actually earn that. You're just going to think you have it in general. You're going to think you've done enough to earn it because we always feel like we've done enough to earn whatever good thing has happened to us. And so you get a generation of young men who see all this shit on social media, don't get into a relationship with people because they see that and they don't want to be in a relationship with people who aren't going to respect them, even if that's not the reality of what's going to happen with them. And then they become increasingly lonely and they look for people who are able to help feed their emotions in those lonely states. And that leads them to Crowder, and that leads them to Andrew Tate. And once they've got them in their folds for their loneliness, then they get to feed them their political opinions after the fact. They get to feed them how they should be shaping the world after the fact, because they're already in that influencer circle now. They're going to listen to the things they have to say. They've already bought some of their worldview. Why not buy a little more? And, I wonder if there's any other ways that this, slippery slope can cause you to slip into other weird political ideologies.
I think there's some misconceptions of you. I've heard this said. Can you clear the air? Nick Fuentes, do you hate all Jews, sir?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you consider yourself an anti-Semite, a noted anti-Semite?
No.
Okay. Clears that up. Do you believe that white people are superior to all other races on the planet?
No.
Okay. Do you want to eradicate all non-whites from the United States?
No.
Okay. Well, Barry Weiss will be very happy to hear that. No doubt she's watching.
Despite the fact that the person he has on there, Nick Fuentes, has himself personally stated every one of those things in one manner or other. If you're lonely, then Steven Crowder can be your gateway into Andrew Tate. And then as you listen to more things about Steven Crowder's opinions, he can be your gateway to Nick Fuentes. And then Nick Fuentes can be your gateway to the lovely Groyper army, where you too can be an anti-Semitic asshole that really likes shitting on women's rights. The trick is always to start somebody out with the reasonable take. It is reasonable to think that your religion had it right on how relationships should work. Most people who grow up in a religion will do that, in fact. It is reasonable to think that men's suicide rates are something to be concerned about. And so you start thinking that maybe the women are at fault, and you see where we're going here. You see what's actually happening here. You bite the bullet on one tiny bit of bullshit epistemology, and then you start biting the bullet on a lot of bullshit epistemology. And that's how Steven Crowder and other programs like his work. They sell you on the comedy, and then they sell you on small bits of the ideology you might agree with, and then they sell you on the ideology in whole. So what can we actually do about any of this? Well, it's pretty simple. We can start recognizing these patterns, like I did early in the video, where I went, okay, you have an opinion on this thing. Let me do a tiny bit of research and see if maybe there's some nuance you're missing. And lo and behold, there is. Recognize when your friends and family are doing this, where they are taking that non-nuanced opinion and just throwing it out there into the aether, and challenge them on that opinion. Have a conversation with them about the opinion. Figure out some way to talk about the thing such that they will not just sit there and regurgitate whatever a podcast bro or whatever a Fox News host or whomever is actually feeding them that week. There are a handful of ways to go about this, but almost all of it starts with being able to recognize when it's happening in the first place. So maybe the start is actually watching a little bit of right-wing media. Maybe do it through a channel like me or Xander or Vosh or Shark, or Shark even still do content? I don't think he actually does content anymore. Riverboat Jack, there you go. She's actually doing content still. Maybe watch through one of us so that you're not just sitting there taking in the right-wing opinions wholesale, if that's what you need. And if you feel like you can handle that, then go expose yourself to those ideas so you have an idea of what you're working with. But if you don't, you'll never be able to have a conversation with somebody who is also internalizing those ideas, because they're just going to seem alien to you. And if those ideas are alien to you, you're not going to know how to counter them. You're not going to know whether what they're saying is right or wrong. You're going to be as blind going into that conversation as anyone else. And I don't want that for you. I want you to be able to go into those conversations with right-wingers that are generally not the greatest of people right now because of who they're supporting in the office, and be able to actually change those hearts and minds. But it never can be done if you're not willing to first entertain that side of the political aisle long enough to know what the fuck they're talking about. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Hopefully you found this video somewhat informative. If you did, maybe consider subscribing, letting a couple friends know what I do over here. I try to be nuanced and I try to be fair and reasonable and all that fun stuff, and sometimes I fail at that. But if I do, then let me know in the comment section below when that happens too. That said, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you all in the next one. Insert end of video tagline here, everybody. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.